The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Stress to Logic and Firearm Mentor, your host. And today we have me, Matt Thornton, who is a detective with the Zion, Illinois Police Department, who really goes out of his way and has a program where he helps youth in the community. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I have not personally met him yet. However, I would love to do that. I got him through a contact I made at the Midwest Security and Police Conference and Expo named Nick Greco. And he gave me some great people who he works with in public safety. So, Matt, can you tell everyone, what is your personal origin story? How did you get to be where you are today, and what is your inspiration?
Oh, it's a long story. It's my inspiration is really I think I changed my life. About 2013 is where this really started. I've been a cop for 20 years. You introduced me as a detective. That's kind of what people know me as now. I was on patrol for 11 years, and I was a detective for 7 years. And now I'm lucky enough to be a SRO, which I love.
Oh my cool. Gosh. Can you tell everyone what that means?
School resource officer. I'm in the Zion Central Middle School, and I love it. It's been the most fun that I've ever had in my career. My journey was kind of an unlikely one to become a cop. That's what started my relationship with Nick eventually. Nick Greco's awesome. Me and him teach a mental well-being class. Actually, in the CIT training, we did that for years together. That's how I knew him. So, you want me to just cover exactly how I became a cop?
Yeah.
To this point?
Yes, absolutely.
It's funny, Marcus, is that I never wanted to be a cop. Never ever dreamt that I would be a cop. I did not like police growing up. I was kind of a rebellious kid. So I never envisioned it. This is funny too, because I always tell this at my classes, that I barely passed high school, never had any college, never went to the military. So why am I even here? That's why I say. So what happened was I ended up going 21. I was arrested at 21 because I was caught. I got charged with a felony when I was 21. Ended up getting dropped to a misdemeanor, and I told myself I just was going to straighten out my life at that point. So from 21 to about 28 years old, I just worked as a blue-collar kid, didn't really have any education, got married young, had a couple kids. I just tried to live a straight, narrow, check-to-check, normal life. So there was an ad that came out in the Zion Police Department for recruiting an officer. And I was like, you know what? A couple of my friends became cops. I'm going to try to, what do I have to lose? I'll just try. I know I got this background. But my buddies just encouraged me, just say, you know what? You got a diploma. That's all you really need. And go and just be yourself. So I went and I tested, and I got dead last on Zion's list, which is funny because I'm the only one left from that list. And that's when I got into the police world, and I had no idea what I was getting into.
So how did that arrest and subsequent reduction in charge, how did that affect your application to become a police officer? Or did it never even come up?
Oh, it came up because I remember going into the interview. They interview you you do a series of interviews when you become a cop.
Right. They
have the report right in their hand. They have any contacts I had growing up, they had right in their hands, and they gave me the third degree on it. They really hammered away at that. I just told them the truth. Like, look, I was young, I made a mistake, and I was very nervous times. So that's why I figured I'd never make it. But when Zion came around and then I got that letter that I made it, I was pretty relieved.
That's terrific. If you can't beat them, join them, right? I'm teasing you. I'm totally messing with you. So, and you can mess with me exactly the way I mess with you. So, I definitely have a sense of humor there. That's terrific. So, what's your inspiration?
Oh, my inspiration now is, like I said earlier, that I didn't have any idea what I was getting into when I became law enforcement. The mental health part really got to me. Like there's a lot of reasons for it, but I had no preparation. I didn't like police growing up. I never researched it. I had no idea. I looked at it as just I'm getting a cooler job that I can do something different every day, and I got a pay raise. So I never imagined I'd have a career. But then when I got into it, I had no idea the stresses, the dark world that I was stepping into. I was not mentally prepared for it. So I did what every officer should not have done, is take that power and misuse. I was always a clean cop. I never violated anybody's rights, never hurt anybody in my career. But off duty, I became when you become a cop, there's so many more temptations. All of a sudden it's easier to get women. I have no idea why that is, but women love a dude in uniform, so there's a lot more temptations there. You become like a mini celebrity. You become, because I grew up in the city, I grew up in Zion, so you know everybody. All of a sudden everyone knows you, everyone knows your name, everyone wants to buy you a drink. I was totally unprepared for that world.
And it does happen. You're absolutely right. It's a lot of police officers are involved in high-risk activities on the job, and then they go off the job and they continue to engage in some higher-risk activities because they've been through some trauma and came out unscathed, at least physically unscathed. So when I saw your email when we were introduced, it shows up as the cop and the terrorist named Penelope, and I have an awesome sense of humor, except that my family doesn't think so. So what's the meaning behind that?
Oh my goodness, Marcus, that has come. I've been to Zoom meetings, and like important Zoom meetings, and that's on the bottom of the screen. I didn't know how to get rid of it for the longest time. I'm so technologically stupid. So I remember that. Oh my gosh, people ask me that. A long time ago, my little girl, she's 9 years old now, my Penelope, she was just a monster in the house. She would terrorize everything. But she was so funny, and she's very distinct because she's had glasses since she's one. So she was just this larger-than-life character as a kid. So I started a YouTube channel with her, just doing our silly pranks of her being bad. And somebody had asked you one day how to describe her. I said, I don't know. She just terrorizes us every day. So her nickname became the Little Terrorist. So that was our YouTube page, was the cop and the terrorist they called Penelope. And somehow I know a lot of people were kind of like questioning that or alarmed by that. I was like, no, it's a totally innocent story. I remember I was actually, when I went to get my driver license, and I moved to Wisconsin just recently, and I went to get my driver license, and you had to send some sort of email, and it like popped up some alarm at the DMV, and they had to have the boss come over and ask about my email. Like, oh my gosh, how do I get rid of that name?
That's very funny, and I absolutely love it. My personal email address is tacticaldaddy@gmail, and everyone's like, what does that mean? And what it is, and so I get tickled when I see these very creative emails, but what the Tactical Daddy was a 511 tactical vest that I repurposed to use as a diaper bag because I didn't want to carry a purse. I ended up getting the trademark on the name. It's not on the market anymore because it's hard for me to make diaper changing videos with an 18-year-old because that's my youngest is 18 now. So the material is kind of stale. But it did run its course. I got the trademark on the name and I kept the moniker, but I can't really, if I were to send a resume somewhere, I have a more professional email address because people are like, what the heck does that mean? So I have a great appreciation.
There's another one too, Mark. Oh my gosh. My daughter got into my iPhone, and my name on my iPhone for the longest time was Matt the Moron.
I saw that too.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea how to get rid of that one either.
That's hilarious. I like your daughter. She's awesome.
I got 6 daughters, Marcus, and they always bully me like that. They're
Holy
terrible.
cow. It's a gentle giant with a sterling silver heart. So you touched on some of your assignments, patrol, detective, SRO. Is there any more detail that you'd like to share about some of your law enforcement experience? Maybe interaction with youth, how you got involved in the stress management in law enforcement, or any other details that you'd be interested in sharing?
Well, yeah. I grew up in Zion, so everyone knew me. I was an athlete in high school, so I played ball, and so I was pretty. I don't want to say famous, but I was popular amongst the city. when I got hired. So you know everybody, and when you know everybody there, Zion, we're very busy.
Right.
I've worked and seen every type of case you could possibly imagine, and more times than not, I know somebody involved. So when you go to somebody that was shot, or you have to arrest somebody for a major crime, or you see somebody's destroyed or deceased right in front of you that it really affects you in even a double worse way than your average cop if you're so connected already to the people. And I did not handle that well at all. I've had experiences in patrol in Zion. We used to we were very, very busy because we were short-handed when I first started. Then I did that for 11 years. We ended up we got more officers now, but back in the day we were very short-handed. So you had something happened in our city, you had your hands on it.
Okay.
And then it's even worse when you become a detective because the stresses, because you are married to these cases, and oftentimes I've worked a lot of cases where I've had to lock up people that I grew up with for a significant time, or deal with people that I've loved and known since childhood, tell them their mother passed away,
right,
or go to a shooting scene and see somebody that you've known for 30 years. It was tough, and I, like I said earlier, I had no idea how to handle that. Okay. My way of handling it back in the day when I started was to be very, very honest and transparent, was to drink and be self-destructive in my personal life. I did everything you should not do as an officer.
Can you tell us about that winter night in 2013 and how you got there and what happened?
I ended up going all through my self-destructive behavior at the beginning, and I'll take full ownership of that. I destroyed that marriage I talked about. So it was all my fault. I ended up hurting my young kids at the time. They're older now, but hurt them really bad, and I just sunk into depression. And it was my own doing. I'm not blaming anyone but myself. And it was just a long path of just deep darkness, and I ended up being diagnosed with some mental issues. I was very depressed. I struggled with that for several years, and then I finally just came up. One time I ended up getting someone that was really close to me in the department actually let the chief know how dark my life had become and how my mental health issues were really struggling, and I got ratted out. And I don't say that in a negative way either, because that person was just looking out for me. And I had my badge stripped. They take your gun, you take your badge, and then that just made it even worse for me. But we're cops. We know what to tell a psychologist and a psychiatrist. You tell them the right words, and so you can get released and go back on the job. So I did that, but with the intention that, okay, now everybody knows, everyone thinks Thornton's crazy. So now, you know what? I'm going to get back on the job, but then I'm going to actually come up with a real plan, and nobody's going to know about it. So that was what I did. I was in such a dark place, struggling every day just to make it through every day, struggling just to get a night's sleep. And when you ignore and don't fully address a depression for a long time, it's just a recipe for disaster, especially in our profession. Like we lose more officers to suicide than we do to street violence. Nobody ever told me this at the job. I think that we fail in this profession of informing recruits. That should be the top line of every application, is that, you know what, if you want to get in this job, stay on top of your mental health. That should be the biggest warning on every application. So what ends up happening is I have this plan, right? I left a note. I addressed very, very specifically in the note that I was going to leave who I hated, who I loved. I blamed the profession for everything. Because I remember I was a normal guy before I started. So I blamed policing, and not rightfully. It wasn't justifiable, but this is where my mind was at the time. I said no police are allowed at my funeral. I told my mother what songs to play, what to dress me in, and I had this plan right in place. I knew exactly how I was going to do it, and I knew exactly who was going to find me. So I type up this letter, and I'm just going over some final details. I think that one of the only things that kept me alive for that short a period of time was just my two older kids. But I was going to do it, and regardless. And when you know how they say when you're that manic and you're that desperate and hopeless, things just start to clear up because you know there's an end game. You know there's a finish line because you're going to be out of this pain. And that's all you want to do is be out of this pain. So I formulate this letter. I go to shift one night. It's a winter night in January. And you know how it is by the lake in the winter, especially January is our coldest month. And it had to have been 20 below. The wind was just howling, and it was a midnight shift. I went and parked, and I'm going over this plan. It's just in my head. You replay what you're going to do over and over and over again. So I go and park at Walmart, and I would estimate between midnight and 2 in the morning. I just wanted to be left alone. So I go in Walmart and park, and just alone in my thoughts. So when you're alone and when you're that state of mind, you just cry. It's almost like it's uncanny how it's a given when it's just you and your vehicle and your thoughts, and all you can do is reflect on the mess that you made of your life. And I'm just crying to myself like I always did. And so I'm leaning forward in my car. I remember distinctly tears falling on my lap. I just, for some reason, that just sticks out of my mind. I'm just crying to myself. And this lady comes out of Walmart, and I was really curious, why are you walking in this weather? It is so cold out here, and it's so windy. I look over, and she has long black hair, and it's literally sideways. Her hair is sideways to her head. It's blowing so hard. So she goes to a car, and I'm here sitting in my squad, crying, looking at her, and I was like, you better not come over here. So sure enough, she sees my squad, and she walks straight towards me. And here I am sitting thinking about this, what I'm about to do. And I get instantly angry at her. She walks over, and I dry my tears because I don't want her to see me crying. And I roll my window down just a few inches to see what in the world she needed. She doesn't say anything to me. She hands me something through the window, and I take it. And she just says these words. She says, you need this. And then she turns around and walks away with no other explanation. And what she handed me was a Red Cross. And that was the moment that I always say that God showed up to intervene. And I just took that, and I couldn't not know that was God talking to me, because of all the circumstances. I'm going over this plant. This night is so ridiculously cold. Why is anybody out here to have some woman walk in that moment and hand me across? It was undeniable.
Meant to be.
I just screamed out. Yep. I screamed out, God, this is you. I know that I'm going to die. Can you please do something? And I'm crying. And if you'd have walked by my squad at that moment, you'd have thought I was nuts, because I was literally screaming and audibly. It was just very animated in my car. And it took me a long time to even tell this story, because I thought people would think I was crazy. But I don't know if it was audible. I don't know if it was just in my head. But I felt and heard God tell me, Jesus tell me, that he's been there and seen every sin I've ever committed. He says, stop what you're doing and follow me. And it was the most undeniable sound and peace that I've ever felt. I've never felt that anything even remotely close to that moment. And so what I did was I got on the phone. I called my sister, who worked at a church. And it's I know you work at a church. I don't know, you got a pastor in there somewhere. Can I meet with him? Because something happened. I didn't tell her what happened, but I said something happened. So the next morning, I made it into his office, and that was the morning I still didn't tell him exactly what happened, but I was like, something happened to me, and I need help. And I gave my life to the Lord in his office, and I actually got some real help for the first time.
That's fantastic. And the last thing I want to do is re-traumatize anyone on the radio show or in life. So I greatly appreciate you sharing this. It's a difficult journey. I'm not, I'm not judging, and everyone's got to bear their crosses. Pardon the pun. But since then, at least from what I know about you, you've really found a calling in mentoring youth. So can you tell us about that process, and how do you make young people, whether they're at risk or not, become better?
I ended up about a year and a half later, my pastor convinced me to start a program, and I didn't know how to start anything. I didn't know anything about teaching kids or mentoring kids. So just to get them off my back, I told my son, who was a freshman in high school, I said, bring some of your friends. There's a gym at this church, and you guys can shoot some hoops, and I'll read you some verses. And I spent $10 that night, bought 2 Little Caesars pizzas, and that was that. So that ends up starting. First week, 6 people. Second week, 10 people, and then just kept building and building. Pretty soon, the word spread on the street that, hey, that dude, that cop, that bald cop, he runs this thing. We can all go and hoop and eat. So half of the city of Zion came. The word just spread around the neighborhood, and pretty soon I got more kids than I could even fit in this gym. So me and my sister were like, this has kind of bombarded us. So my sister, who still worked at the same church, she helped facilitate it, and we just invite every kid in the city every Friday, and whoever can come. We're going to feed you, we're going to let you play, but most of all, we're going to mentor you, teach you about the Lord, walk with you, and kind of get you whatever resources we need now that we're pretty blessed off.
So you mentioned reading verses at first. How has that evolved to what it is today? And what is it more discussion today, or how do you impact people, the youth who are, they're shooting basketball, maybe they're listening to you, maybe they're not listening to you? Mm-hmm. So how did that program evolve is the question.
It started off, I had no clue, but these kids kept asking me questions. The minute you mention something about life and about God, you see the ones whose ears perk up, because a lot of them have nothing. They come from, I investigate their homes. I know where some of them come from. And so these questions they kept asking, it kind of raised my game. So I need to be able to answer and facilitate and give them a loving response to everything they are curious about. So it really made me dive and research and up my teaching game. So it's really evolved into something I wouldn't call. I'm not a minister, so everyone wants to act like I'm or thinks that I might be like a pastor or something. I'm not. I'm just a cop who studies Scripture, loves the Lord, and wants to teach them about it. So it's kind of evolved into them asking. We've baptized a lot of kids in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen. There's been thousands of kids since 2014 when I started come through there. So it's evolved into I would call it like a boys and girls club sprinkled in with a mixture of some church, with a mixture of street intervention. Now we got tons of resources for them. We sit down. Me and my partners just sat down a few days ago and solved the street beef. We take care of a lot of stuff like that. Stuff that we need to address like now before somebody gets hurt.
Perfect. It's amazing that how a couple of cheapo pizzas and a basketball can really bring kids and community together. I'm amazed at and please don't take this the wrong way, the simplicity of getting the kids involved. It boggles my mind. So easy, and I wish other departments would have a similar process. I've seen Explorer programs. I was a police explorer. That's a little different. You're talking about all kids, not just kids who don't have arrests. So the next question I have for you is, how is your program funded? Is it out of your pocket? Do you accept donations? And can you talk about the services listed on your intake form on the website, which we'll announce later?
Well, it started off, I just funded it all out of my own pocket. And then I remember, and I'll shout out Judge Bridges. Was a Lake County judge for a long time, and he's retired now. Judge Bridges gave me my very first donation. He gave me $100 one week because he heard about what I did, and he's a member of the church that I was working at. And that meant that meant so much to me. And since then, we've learned the 501c3 process. We've learned how to apply for grants, how to just be public, how to spread the word. We use a lot of social media, so we've gotten donations from, anywhere from Texas to Rhode Island. People will see our story and send in money. So we've been very blessed with donations that way. And what we offer for our kids now. First, it was just a safe spot for them to come on a Friday. But what we offer now is we settle street. We do street intervention. We find out who needs what. We help kids walk the stage. If you're hungry, your lights are out at your house, we can help you get that taken care of. We've put kids through college programs, trade schools. We have so many stories. The list goes on and on. What we've been able to do through the graciousness of people sending in donations, and different organizations bring us food all the time now. Domino's in Zion has been so awesome to us. Robbie over there has been the greatest. We have I'm trying to think long enough. Like, we have other things that we also do with them too. Anything to make their lives better. A lot of our kids are fatherless. A lot of them are like young gang members. A lot of them are street kids that I know that are in and out of juvenile incarceration. We also have a resource to help get them jobs now. I'm teaming up with Oscar Parham's group, Home Away from Home. We just became that's like our sister group. So he does a lot more with culinary. He's a lot more mentoring, stuff like that. So we're kind of bonding with them now to even have a greater reach in the city.
Fantastic. On your website, you've got Playmakers and Playmaker of the Month. Can you explain what that is?
Those are kids that we see grow. We had that. My niece started that a while back, and I'm not sure if we had one very recently, but we got to get back to naming those. It was just a kid that they saw grow during the month that we saw. Either they got a job, and we have a few kids. I think one of them recently got a CDL because we helped them with the FAFSA stuff at the local college. But that's just a kid that's been loyal to us, that we see grow, and we want to prop them up and show the world what they've been doing. We have a ton of stories like that. We probably do one every week.
When we return, we'll be continuing the conversation with Officer Matt Thornton of the Zion Police Department. Stay tuned. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.